July 16th, 1054. The summer heat hangs heavy over Constantinople. Inside the majestic Hagia Sophia, priests prepare for the morning liturgy. Candles flicker, incense drifts upward. The vast dome hums with anticipation. Suddenly the massive doors open. Cardinal Humbert, representing the Roman Catholic Church, strides into the heart of the Orthodox world. Without bowing or speaking, he walks straight to the high altar and places a sealed document before Patriarch Michael Cerularius. Then he turns, leaves the cathedral, and soon after departs the city, returning to Rome. The message he left behind was explosive. Patriarch Michael had been excommunicated by the Pope. Michael's response came within hours. He gathered his bishops, convened a council, and excommunicated Humbert and the Roman delegation in return. July 16th, 1054, would later be remembered as the official beginning of the Great Schism, the moment the Christian world split into East and West. But this dramatic confrontation was only the final spark. The real divide had been building for centuries. For generations, a single question fueled tension between East and West. Which church held true authority? In the West, Rome built its claim on apostolic legacy. The popes asserted that their authority flowed directly from St. Peter, one of Jesus' apostles who had traveled to Rome, founded a church there, and died as a martyr. According to this tradition, Peter was the first bishop of Rome, and all popes who followed inherited his divine commission. Paul, another central figure of early Christianity, also died in Rome. Western tradition teaches that both apostles were buried beneath what is now Vatican territory. To the papacy, this sacred foundation gave Rome universal supremacy over Christendom. The East saw things very differently. Constantinople was the capital of the empire, the seat of the emperor. For centuries, Roman emperors had held ultimate religious authority, shaping doctrine and presiding over church affairs. Constantine, Theodosius, Justinian, each ruled not just lands, but faith. From the Eastern perspective, the logic was simple. Where the emperor resides, the supreme church must stand. This rivalry, neither fully theological nor entirely political, cast a long shadow over the Middle Ages. At its core, it was a struggle for influence, yet politics alone didn't drive the two churches apart. Cultural distance widened the divide in ways that were impossible to ignore. By 1054, the differences were clear. Eastern clergy traditionally wore beards. Western clergy did not. Eastern priests could marry. Western priests were bound to celibacy. These details may seem small, but they were constant reminders that the two halves of Christendom were growing apart. And then came the greatest barrier of all: language. When the Roman Empire split in 395, the division wasn't just political, it was cultural. The West spoke Latin, the East spoke Greek. By the 5th century, even Eastern emperors had stopped using Latin altogether. Communication broke down. Theological debates went unread or misunderstood. Important letters sat unanswered for months, simply because no one could translate them. Some Eastern scholars mocked Latin as the language of barbarians, insisting that anyone who spoke it, Pope included, could not claim authority over Constantinople. Then came the Filioque controversy, one of the most debated theological issues in Christian history. Early church councils, convened by emperors, had clarified the formula of the Trinity. The Council of Constantinople in 381 stated that the Holy Spirit proceeded from the Father alone. But in 589, at the Council of Toledo, the Western Church added a single phrase, that the Holy Spirit proceeded from the Father and the Son. Filioque, one word with enormous implications. The West added it to defend the divinity of Jesus and counter heresies. The East saw this as a unilateral alteration of sacred doctrine and a serious breach of tradition. To them, it was nothing less than heresy. Meanwhile, church authority itself was evolving. 5 major bishoprics, Rome, Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem, formed what Eastern clergy called the Pentarchy, the rule of 5. Rome held a ceremonial first place among them, but only in honor, not in absolute authority. As Constantinople's political power grew, emperors pushed its religious influence as well. The divide deepened. In the West, the papacy was gaining unprecedented power of its own. For centuries, popes had depended on emperors, but crises in the East opened new opportunities. In 726, Emperor Leo III banned the veneration of icons. Pope Gregory II condemned the decision, issuing a letter of excommunication, though the letter never reached Constantinople because imperial agents intercepted it in Sicily. Then came a pivotal moment, the donation of Pepin in 751. As Lombards threatened Rome, the Pope appealed to Pepin the Short, king of the Franks. Pepin defeated the Lombards and granted vast territories to the papacy. Overnight, the Pope became both spiritual leader and ruler of a sovereign state. This transformation continued in 800, when Pepin's son, Charlemagne, was crowned emperor by the Pope. At that moment, the Eastern Empire was ruled by Empress Irene. Many in the West claimed that a woman could not rule, declaring the throne vacant. Charlemagne's coronation signaled a new imperial authority, one independent from Constantinople. The rivalry was now unmistakable. But the final break would come not from theology or politics, but from southern Italy. Before the Normans arrived, much of the region had been under Byzantine influence. But by the 11th century, the Normans aligned themselves with Rome. Still, local churches followed Eastern practices. In 1053, the Pope issued a decree: adopt the Latin Rite, or be shut down. Patriarch Michael retaliated by closing all Latin churches in Constantinople. What began as a local dispute spiraled into a diplomatic crisis. Hoping to resolve the issue, the Pope sent Cardinal Humbert to Constantinople in June 1054. It was a disastrous decision. Humbert's stern attitude and demands offended Patriarch Michael. Meetings stalled. Tensions rose. Eventually, Michael refused to meet the delegation at all. Finally, on the morning of July 16th, Humbert marched into Hagia Sophia and placed the excommunication bull on the altar. Michael responded the same day, excommunicating the delegation. With that exchange, the separation between East and West became final. At first, ordinary Christians barely felt the difference. Communities where Eastern and Western believers lived side by side continued peacefully. But over time, hostility seeped into everyday life. The Crusades intensified resentment. And in 1204, when Latin Crusaders seized and brutally sacked Constantinople, the wound became permanent, sealed in blood. Efforts to repair the divide have continued for centuries, but even today, the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches remain separated, two great traditions sharing the same roots, yet growing in different directions. A single faith, two worlds, forever divided.